Coming up on Jerusalem Dateline, the Syrian city of Aleppo overtaken by rebel forces. In Lebanon, Hezbollah continues recruiting and rearming during the so-called ceasefire with Israel. And longing to return home, Israeli families in the north look for the day they can move back safely. Plus, celebrating the ancient friendship between Persians and Jews, and the modern-day support Israelis are extending to the Iranian people. All this and more coming up on this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Hello and welcome to this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. I'm Paul Strand, filling in for our bureau chief Chris Mitchell, who's on assignment. Israeli leaders are warning if the Lebanese army doesn't stop Hezbollah's ceasefire violations, Lebanon itself will pay. As Chris reports from Jerusalem, thousands are also fleeing the fighting inside Syria.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made it clear that the ceasefire is not an end of the war and that Israel will not accept a return to the status before the October 7th attacks. Israel's defense minister Yisrael Katz warned Lebanon what will happen if the ceasefire breaks down.
If we return to war, we will act strongly. We will go deeper. And the most important thing they need to know is that there will no longer be an exemption for the state of Lebanon.
Under the shadow of the fragile ceasefire, some residents are cautiously returning to their homes.
We have a clear goal to return the residents, to rehabilitate the North. We are enforcing this ceasefire with an iron fist, acting against any violation, minor or major.
Netanyahu also thanked President Trump for his bold warning to those holding the hostages in Gaza. Trump wrote, "Those responsible will be hit harder than anybody has been hit in the long and storied history of the United States of America."
This adds another force to our continuing effort to release all the hostages. Thank you, President Trump.
CBN's Faith Nation interviewed one of the fathers of a hostage still held in Gaza. Ruby Han appreciated Trump's warning to Hamas.
Well, I think the language that the president-elect used in that post is exactly the type of language we need. United States citizens, should be safe wherever they are.
Han wonders why the Biden administration can't be that forceful.
Why is it that the United States, with all of its power, is not able to do more to squeeze Hamas to a place that it could get to a deal?
A new report also predicts a centerpiece of Trump's foreign policy in the region. It says Iranian regime change likely to be the focus of Trump Middle East policy. This will manifest as an enhanced version of the maximum pressure campaign with the explicit goal of regime change in Tehran. Iran is also under pressure in Syria, where radical Muslim rebels are threatening the Syrian regime, one of Iran's major regional allies. These radical Muslims have taken Aleppo, Syria's second largest city, and forced thousands to flee.
We were attacked by armed militias. They displaced us against our will. They started to threaten people, saying they would kill and behead them, so we left.
Many also say thousands of Christians in and around Aleppo are also at risk. They're asking for prayer from Christians around the world and help from the international community. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
After withering blows from Israeli forces, Hezbollah is out to rebuild its massive array of weapons so it can once again try to wipe Israel off the map. But in the Gaza Strip, Hamas has been so decimated, it could be ready for a hostage deal. Take a look. U.S. intelligence says Hezbollah is recruiting more fighters and looking for more weapons. Reports indicate the terror group aims to rebuild and continue its fight far into the future, despite Israel destroying more than half its weapons and killing thousands of its fighters. The ceasefire specifically forbids the terror group from rearming, a main concern for Israel in the negotiations. As for Hamas in Gaza, Israel's defense minister says the IDF's degradation of Hezbollah and successful strikes against Iran have isolated the terror group, increasing the odds it will do a hostage deal.
Both the places of deterrence of Iran and what's happening in Lebanon, and in all places, the intensity of the pressure of this monstrous organization called Hamas is increasing, and there's a chance that this time we will really be able to advance a hostage deal.
The Israeli government reportedly has submitted a new ceasefire proposal. Meanwhile, President-elect Trump, who is said to want a deal before he takes office, has appointed Adam Bowler, one of the negotiators of the Abraham Accords, as a special envoy for hostage affairs. The IDF says it's recovered the body of another hostage, Itai Svirsky.
Itai was kidnapped from his parents' home in Kibbutz Be'eri on October 7th. His parents were murdered by Hamas terrorists. Itai was kidnapped alive. In January, we announced he was murdered, and together with him, Yossi Sharabi was killed.
In the U.S. Capitol, New York lawmakers honored Omer Nutra. The native New Yorker was an Israeli-American serving in the IDF who was captured on October 7th and now determined to have been killed that day.
Omer, serving as a tank commander, was among the first to respond to Hamas's brutal attack, risking his life to protect others. Tragically, as we learned this weekend, his life was taken during this horrific massacre.
And on this day of pure evil, Omer Nutra lost his life commanding his tank platoon in defense of Israel against these barbaric Hamas terrorists.
I now ask that all members join me for a brief moment of silence in honor of Omer Nutra.
In a recent report, Amnesty International accused Israel of genocide in Gaza. The report says Israel deliberately set out to destroy Palestinians, demolish vital infrastructure, and prevent the delivery of food and other aid. Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs of Israel, Sharon Haskell, responded from Kibbutz Be'eri, one of the communities devastated on October 7th.
Amnesty International thinks that you're stupid because they think that in the 101 pages report that they actually produce, you will not read them. In this report, they actually altered and changed the legal terms and definition for what is a genocide, because Israel doesn't meet those criteria. So Amnesty International had to alter it. Look around us. This is what a real genocide look like, a real attempt of genocide. This is the declaration of Hamas on their platform to completely massacre and eliminate every single Jew. What they've done here, going from house to house, murdering innocent civilians, raping girls, burning their houses and burning them alive, these are war crimes. That is an attempt to genocide. Israel war has only one goal: to eliminate a monstrous terrorist organization called Hamas.
Coming up, families in the north missing their homes, but not ready to go back yet. Although the ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah seems to be holding, many northern Israelis displaced by the war don't feel safe moving back to their homes. Here's the story from near the border with Lebanon. Dean Sweetland misses the once bustling life at Kibbutz Malkiah on the northern border.
This is a really busy place, and now it's nothing. It's a ghost town.
Sweetland also feels that unless someone experienced the near-constant Hezbollah attacks, they won't likely understand why northern Israelis are hesitant to return home.
You expect me to ring around my friends and say, all the families should come home? No. Because 2-month ceasefire doesn't mean 3-month, 4-month, 5-month, a permanent ceasefire. This is a 2-month ceasefire where they, after 2 months, could just open fire again.
They can get more ammunition from Iran. They can come back to places that they were driven out of.
Orna Weinberg dearly misses her lifelong home, Kibbutz Manara.
The meaning of the name Manara is a beacon or a lighthouse. And we are a beacon to the whole Galilee, to this whole area.
And they hope to be that light again. First, however, they want real guarantees their families will be safe.
We are very, very strong. But we must have security for our children. We won't bring our children back unless we know they are safe for generations to come.
Many here believe the ceasefire prevented IDF troops from crippling Hezbollah as a fighting force.
I think this war will resume again. What we had to do was finish the job once and for all.
For Moshe Azra, there's no hope until Hezbollah is simply no longer a threat.
We must finish the job to the end. They don't know the meaning of life. They don't know anything. They know rockets. 150 rockets were fired on average every day at us.
Azra is sad for what his 8 grandchildren have had to endure.
They're afraid all the time of the sirens. They run to the shelters all the time. It's impossible.
And adults can carry that same fear.
No, not now. I don't want it. It is a bit scary next to the border. A bit scary.
Does anyone expect the kibbutz to say, bring your families back? Yeah, everything is okay, it's a ceasefire. It's rubbish.
Still, Sabach Shlomi believes Israel has the power to make all this have a good ending.
Getting good results is what you do. It doesn't happen by itself, so the government has to do what it takes to get a good result.
And that's what would bring the Northerners home. Up next, Israelis calling to the Iranian people on the basis of a centuries-old friendship. Our next 2 stories show the groundswell of Israeli support for the people of Iran. It ranges from a direct address from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to publication of articles written by ethnic minority leaders to a series of murals mounted across Israel honoring Iranian women. Our bureau chief, Chris Mitchell, brings the story.
Recently, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu spoke directly to the Iranian people.
Yet there's one thing Khamenei's regime fears more than Israel. You know what it is? It's you, the people of Iran. That's why they spend so much time and money trying to crush your hopes and curb your dreams. Well, I say to you this, don't let your dreams die. I hear your whispers. Women, life, freedom.
One school of thought is that the Islamic regime could potentially collapse without a war. One believer is Yigal Karman, founder of the Middle East Media Research Institute, or MEMRI. For more than 25 years, Karman, a former IDF intelligence officer, has helped bridge the language gap between East and West by translating multiple languages in the region through MEMRI.
This is the big thing, no one wants war. No American President Trump will not want war. No one, we don't want anybody. Can it be done without a war? The answer is absolutely yes.
Karman explains part of that is due to Iran's multi-ethnic population.
Iran, let me explain, is made up of 50% almost Parsis. Some of them are opponents of the regime, many, and some are the regime guide, the Ayatollah's guide, the Islamist Shiites. The other 50% are ethnic minorities which are repressed for many years by the Islamic regime. And they struggle for their freedom, for rights, for autonomy, for confederation. Some want even independence.
Despite that quest for freedom, Karman sees the West doing little to help them.
They are being killed for years, and guess what? The West doesn't help them. Iran has proxies. All the terrorist organizations are their proxies. The West is not helping freedom fighters, true freedom fighters, Baluchis, Ahwazis, Kurds, and Azeris. And there are more, but smaller. These 4 groups, ethnic groups, seek their freedom, fight for it.
Karman stays in regular contact with many of these leaders.
We are even publishing, giving them a platform, publishing their material. Lately, we published an article by the Dr. Aref El-Ka'bi, who is the leader of the Ahwazis in south of Iran, all the region of the oil. Dr. Aref El-Ka'bi wrote an article, I Have a Dream. I have a dream, and he explained what is the dream. It's a beautiful article, a dream of peace and understanding and of freedom. Freedom of the control of the crazy Ayatollahs. That's the only name for them.
Another leads the Balochis ethnic group.
We give him a platform about the plight of the Baluchis that are repressed by the Iranian regime to the ground and killed. And there are the Kurds. And there are the Azeris. We are in touch with all of them. We give them platform, but it's not about a platform for presenting their positions, their dreams, their hopes. It is about help with money and weapons. It is not the war of America. It is their war for autonomy, confederation, independence.
That's why Carmon believes the West should get more involved.
They need to be helped. This will remove the Ayatollah's regime like that, if the West helped them.
Any help ending the Iranian regime would transform the Middle East. And that's a dream Netanyahu wants the Iranian people to believe.
The regime wants to destroy your future as they seek to destroy our state. Well, we won't let that happen. I have no doubt that one day in a free Iran, Israelis and Iranians will build together a future of prosperity and peace. That is the future Israel deserves. That is the future Iran deserves. Together, let us turn this beautiful dream into a reality.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem. Dozens gathered to view the 18th and final mural celebrating the courageous women of Iran. Many defied the oppression of the Islamic regime and paid with their lives.
I wanted to inspire the women of Iran to keep fighting because what they're doing takes so much courage to show their hair. And when someone gets murdered, I don't want them to be forgotten.
Amini's death sparked a revolution, much of it led by women.
We don't hear about it so much in the West, but it is strong. And these people are so brave. I mean, you know, we can go to a protest in Rabin Square, or if you're in America, you can go to a protest, and then you go home and you're with your family. When these people go to a protest, they might not ever see their family again afterwards because they cart them off to a prison and that's it. So these represent the fight for freedom of the Iranian people.
Some of the murals represent the punishment of those women by covering their eyes, since the government shoots an eye out for exposing their hair or other crimes. Iranian-born American Houman Halili spent nearly 2 years creating 18 murals throughout Israel.
Not only do I want them to be remembered, but they're remembered in the Holy Land. And in this case, they're remembered in Jerusalem. You know, the whole world considers this their Holy Land. So I don't want their courage to be lost, and I don't want their sacrifice to be in vain.
Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs assisted Halili in his mission.
It's the bond between Israelis and Iranians. And it's a very clear statement about the special connection between Israelis and Iranians and the special importance for the fight of women in Iran and honoring the victims of Israel.
I want the world to see that the Jews, the Israelis, are the only people in the Middle East standing with the freedom-fighting women of Iran.
The murals are spread from Eilat in the south to Nahariya in the north and have moved both Israelis and Iranians.
The Persians in Iran are overwhelmingly joyful. They cannot believe that these murals exist, one after another.
When I tell a lot of Israelis, my friends and people I meet about what the murals are, and they're astounded. And Israelis are amazed. They didn't know that, first of all, Iran has the fastest growing church in the world, and that the people of Iran are praying for Israel.
Halili points out the connection between the Jews and Persians is an ancient one.
I want to remind the world that the relationship between the Persians and the Jews is biblical. 3,000 years of history, starting with King Cyrus. The whole book of Esther takes place in Iran, and the Magi, they were all Zoroastrian. They all studied the stars, and they're the ones that God chose to bring the gifts to Jesus.
Many see the comparison between these modern-day Iranian women and Queen Esther, whose courage saved her people.
It's about being aware of others, especially the women of Iran who have lived in oppression. So I want to go home with a cry to pray and to stand with the women who are in this situation and who have given their lives for it. These are brave women. And as it says, the Esthers of the world are rising up. May it be.
Well, that's all for this edition of Jerusalem Dateline. Thanks for joining us. Remember, you can follow us on social media, and you can access CBN content through our CBN News and other CBN apps. And don't forget to sign up for our email blasts so you can continue to receive information on breaking news. And please keep praying for Israel and the peace of Jerusalem and for the safety of IDF soldiers fighting on so many fronts. For all of us here in the Jerusalem Bureau, I'm Paul Strand. We'll see you next time on Jerusalem Dateline.